it was very interesting. Lucy was very intent on her direction, and I think she was very wise, and I think it's a reason we supported her, and it was, we need to interact, we need to get out in the community, we need to interact with the community, and we wanted to try and bridge some of the discordance that was going on. I mean, it wasn't, you know, it's some of the fear-based theory that everyone lives with, and that's, you know, these are my donors and I need to protect these dollars because this is my cause and I want to support it, and every organization has their own reason for doing what they do. And so it creates sometimes animosity, and it doesn't create good communication. And so what we really wanted to do is be able to come in and be able to work with anybody. Because in essence, most of us had worked with one or the other organizations, you know, throughout our lifetime. You know, so how were we supposed to come in and be separate? You know, how could we work with one group but not the other? And so that was something that we really focused on, and so that was our goal. It's like, well, let's go volunteer with this organization. And that was sort of how we got known, is, you know, right around First Friday, and all of a sudden we're doing an event for Contemporary Arts Collective, and then we're off, you know, doing an event for Street Teens because we met the Sin City Social people. And so it would be like we were out at events, and we would, you know, make a social connection, and we would find out what we could do for them. And we would just show up at their events and do the whole thing. And it helped us learn a lot about what we were capable of and kind of how to make those connections. And it really helped that Lucy's very good at that sort of networking. When she's on her game, she's, you know, she remembers everybody's name, and she's, you know, she's playful, and she comes across as serious and committed. And so it really helped us, you know, make inroads within the community. But it was fun. I mean, there were times when we would walk into bars and it would just practically go quiet. There were a couple occasions when it literally went dead silent when we first got into town, because people just had no idea. And they weren't that familiar with the sisters, and they sort of, it could have been just a shock from how atrocious we were, I'm not sure. Because we were pretty scary at first. We did some pretty frightening looks. I have pictures if you want to film one, but it just cracks me up because I look in hindsight at the growth that we've had and some of the refinement that we've had with ourselves. And just not even realizing, I think, not the impact we would have on people. You know, we threw on the face and threw on the costume and went out there and went, boo, here we are, without realizing that people would necessarily react to it. You know, you're, okay, let's go do this, you know, and it's like, oh, wait, you know, everybody in the bar just went silent, you know. It was, and it was interesting training, because it's missionary work. You know, you have to go out and you have to walk up to, you know, very possibly complete and utter strangers and introduce yourself and let them know why you're standing here, you know, looking so outrageous, and that you think it's okay. And not only do you think it's okay, would they like to come play with you? You know, and the fun part that I had with it is that we seemed to break the ice regardless of where we went. You know, if we were at Crave, if we were at a leather bar, if we were at a straight event, if we were at First Friday, we always seemed to be able to warm up the crowd. And that was the fun experience. That's the skill, I guess, that we got to learn as sisters early on. You take your human skills and your daily skills, and they'll manifest themselves into a sister persona in a way that will serve you if you're lucky, so that when you're interacting with people, you can learn to keep yourself separate and let your persona as sister be there for them and for the community, but it's a separate entity. Well, first of all, Sister Raegeena doesn't have problems. She can't. You know, when she goes out and she's there for the community, that's what she's there for. If I had a bad day at work, if I'm having problems with my partner, if I'm mad at my friends, if I'm mad at one of the other sisters, that has to stop when I'm out in public. It's the vow I've made to the sisterhood. How can I be there to serve someone else or to make them happy or, you know, educate them about safer sex if I'm stuck in my head and I'm lost in my problems? So that part of Sister Raegeena is very separate, and it took time to get it there, but it works for me. And that allows me to keep my personal life separate from the sisters. You know, so in the community, I still have countless people who think I'm a new sister, which I kind of love. You know, I've been around for 5 years, and part of it is I change my look and my face, and I play with my color a little bit, so it throws people. But I love that they just have no idea who I am. You know, there's a core group of people who do, and that's fine, but I like the anonymity. Just the simple act of walking up to them and asking them how they are is really enough. And if I'm in a public environment, if we're in a bar or something like that, usually it'll be the loners that I want to go talk to. We all seem to have an intrinsic need to want to be wanted, you know, whether for our conversational abilities or we want to feel like we're part of the group. That's why we go out, that's why we socialize. So that's usually my game plan when I go into into an event. You know, you do the first kind of mass run through, but try and find people who maybe are a little more approachable and off by themselves so that you can have an opportunity to have a conversation. So in the beginning, that's what we would do. We would go out in teams and we would just sort of break apart in the bar and just sort of go into little groups and introduce ourselves, and this is who we are and this is what we do, and we're the Sin City Sisters, and we're a non-profit organization, and you know, would you like a condom? And I mean, that was really our mission in the beginning, was to get condoms and safer sex information out to people. So between volunteering for organizations and that's what made it, you know, sort of the divide and attack sort of thing. So because we were too intimidating, as you know, if you come up 5, 6, 7 of you all at once, it's you can't get past the dazzle. You know, it's impossible to get to an actual live conversation, and that's really, you know, for me at least, that's why I do it. I want to have those intimate contacts with people. Close the drapes. The kids are coming. It actually grew out of the late 60s and the love children and the communes. The Cockettes, if you've ever heard of the Cockettes, were a famous house in San Francisco, and they did parodies and they did, you know, outrageous plays. But the city, San Francisco, was, you know, everybody pulled their welfare checks and lived in big houses and, you know, did communal living. And the sisters, I think, were kind of the tail end of the radical fairies and the people in that group. And I think that was sort of an impetus for where the sisters came from. The times were very different. The sisters, besides HIV, were very involved politically. You know, I mean, there were no gay rights. There was no recognition of homosexuality other than an illness. So here was a major city in the United States that had just had enough. That was a big part of it. I think the political side of it. You know, they were very vocal in their city and for people's rights. Then HIV happened. You know, the gay cancer came, and San Francisco was obviously one of the hotbeds, and the hospitals didn't know what to do. I mean, the nurses and doctors, a lot of nurses and doctors didn't want to treat them. They had no idea what was going on. They knew it was infectious, but they didn't want to be around it. And they would get sent home, and there'd be nobody to care for them. And everybody, the mood in San Francisco, I remember being there and visiting, and literally palpably feeling the mood of the city change, you know, as the HIV crisis grew, and as the death toll came on. And I think, if I think about what we do and what drives me as a sister now, I can see how people would be drawn to the sisterhood to offer comfort and compassion under those circumstances.